Hi, everyone. Welcome once again to the Saturday's episode of Shagalinko TV. My name is Ambassador Emmanuel Gabari, and it's good to be here with all of you again. And thanks for always finding time to join us. Like I always say, you have choices, but you decided to always join us every Tuesdays and Saturdays. Thanks so much. Okay, we'll be doing something today, and we're looking at what citizens can do to cushion the effects of the bad economy. Now, the bad economy is not that it's not been here for a while. Nigeria has been battling with all that. But then COVID-19 also made it a unifying factor for all countries, So it just brought about unity in all countries, knowing that we're not alone, okay? So even countries with better economy, with better health infrastructure, we all saw that they were grappling with the realities of COVID-19. And that's why we're looking at today what citizens, we're dwelling on citizens, yes, because a lot has been said about depending on the government. And somehow, from body languages and all that, it just seems that either the government doesn't know what to do about citizens' welfare, or they know and just don't want to. Where other climes, government day in, day out are deliberating on what palliative measures, what financial measures they can help distribute to its citizens to make sure that at least they just are able to live above water. Ours here is looking for ways to suck us dry, new tariffs, telling us to go queue under the sun amidst a lot of people, all in the name of national identity number and all that. So much is happening, but we'll not be dwelling on that. So today I have my guest here, Mr. Wole Ogundare. He's a social commentator. He's a writer, a researcher. He's based in Lagos, and he'll be throwing more light on what we as citizens need to do and all that. We're streaming live in 3 destinations on our YouTube page, that is Shagalinko TV. Also on our Facebook live page, that is Shagalinko TV. And then on my personal page, Ambassador Emmanuel Gabari. Please drop your comments on the comment section here, and we'll be reading them as the program progresses. Some are already dropping theirs here. Thanks to Mukhtar Usman, and thanks to Victoria Umar. The comments are here. We'll read them soon. But let me bring my guest in so he could tell us more about himself, and then we'll go on to talk about our topic of discussion. Good afternoon, Mr. Wale.
Hi, good afternoon, Mar. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing too?
I'm very well, thank you.
Okay. In a nutshell, can you tell us who Mr. Wole Ogundare is? I know I've done a few introductions here and there, but are there hidden other side hustles that we need to know about, Mr. Wole?
Well, the major side hustle is I run an advisory firm. It's called Kathina Advisory. And what we do mainly is we mainly look for businesses coming to set up in Nigeria and across sub-Saharan Africa, and look for ways to ensure that they can set up those businesses in Nigeria here profitably. So that's primarily what we do. We write business plans for them. We help them also to develop the right brand to work with, across sub-Saharan Africa. We have a few clients across the sub-Saharan Africa, Tanzania, Rwanda, Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana. So we have a few clients spread across those locations that we work with. And apart from that, you've said that, I'm a researcher and a social commentator. I'm one of those people you say is passionate about Project Nigeria. I'm extremely passionate about Project Nigeria. Whenever I hear people talking about we need to go our separate ways, we need to, those things I don't buy into that kind of philosophy. What I'll be showing today is how we can actually bring that Project Nigeria to bear and ensure that as one Nigerian, to see how we can harness the strength that God has given us. I'll be talking mostly from that perspective.
Okay. Thank you so much for finding time to join us in spite of how very busy you are. Now, I know we'll be looking mainly on what citizens can do, but let's even start from the basics. Okay, we've been grappling with our economy, GDP rising, GDP falling, and then in 2020 January, no one saw COVID-19 coming, and
Mm.
then boom, February, March, all the world was at standstill, and we felt that okay, at least coming from that angle, Nigeria and Africa would have learned a few lessons from that, maybe putting infrastructures in place, building more on the human capital and all that. And I was a bit down when I saw the 2021 budget, and in my mind the first thing that came is that, do we ever learn? When you saw the 2021 budget, what also came into your mind?
Thank you very much. The 2021 budget has just followed, the usual trajectory of budgets, and for me, I like to look a bit deeper when these budgets come out. So I follow some guys called Budget IT. They do a lot of reviews of the budget and tend to come up with a few more details on the budget. One of the details that I noticed very, very quickly was that there were a lot of frivolous items in the 2021 budget. As always, we saw some renovations of some things in Aso Rock for about 4 billion. We saw some renovations in the National Assembly of about 9 billion. And right across a lot of ministries, all sorts of frivolous budget heads. By budget head, I mean areas where you allocate budgets that you can spend. All sorts, spread across all sorts of things. So for me, primarily, what did I feel? A lot of disappointment in the current trajectory, because it shows that nothing has changed in the thought process of a government.
Okay. So let's even push it further. Having a lot of countries are grappling with their economy and then grappling with manpower, because for senior clients, they empower more on the human capital. Believing that that's the best resource any country can have. Economies come and go. Prices of things can crash, but then the human capital you've developed in is what will at least stabilize whatever trajectory you have. And countries are even debating on how they could increase financial support to cushion effects for their citizens. And here
Correct.
we are, even palliatives, that were supposed to be meant for citizens were locked up in warehouses for so
Mm,
long until NSAS exposed some of this. Now, are you
correct.
not worried that in spite of what we thought that countries would have learned, Nigeria
Mm,
also being part of it, that would have even learned some lessons about helping the citizens cushion the effects? Let's even start from the health angle. There are trajectories that the vaccines will come and all that and all that. So in the midst of all this, why also ask people to go queue up in a place, all because you want them to get national identity card, and you are telling them to lock up churches, you're telling them not to go to the market, you're telling them not to go to bars and all that, but you're also insisting. Do you know how much telecommunications will even lose by virtue if they eventually go on to block the lines? So take us through what this whole scenario plays out in our economy.
let me dimension this economy properly, and I'll be talking from a perspective that most people can understand. You see, in every country, there are ways in which you set up a country, and there are ways in which you run a country. Primarily, something usually drives a country. A primary vision drives a country. And what I mean by that is, and I'll be sharing examples as I go along. If you look at the major countries that we always look up to, let me use the US as a typical example. In the US, one of the things that drives them from a brand point of view and from a vision, the US man, anywhere, if he was born yesterday, they will teach him today that you are in the land of the free and the home of the brave. every single institution that has been set up in the US, from institutions of law, institutions of economy, institutions of commerce, institutions of trade, they all follow that cue that this is the land of the free and home of the brave. That is the primary thing that drives them. Let me share another example. If you go to Dubai as an example, Dubai, you hear all the time, is an area where you go for your holidays. So it's a travel destination and a real estate destination. They promote it very, very well, even though Dubai is just a city. If you come to Africa here, even some states in Africa, some countries in Africa, countries as small as Rwanda, countries as small as Kenya, countries as small as South Africa, compared in size to Nigeria, promote their country with a vision. In Nigeria, we don't have a unified vision, which is why the first issue we always have is tribalism, something to always pull us apart. Now, when I say vision, let me step it down a bit more before I go lower. I've started from a very high point of view. When I say vision, what I'm saying is, why don't we develop as a country something that unites all of us, something like a Nigerian brand, a Nigerian vision, such that every Nigerian, this is what we are about. And then everything around all our institutions, maybe, whatever it is, the National Assembly, the State House of Assemblies, everybody from legal, regulatory, all of them follow that brand. And it is from that brand that we develop that everybody takes a cue from. So regardless of what you want to do as a Nigerian, the first question is, does it support that brand? Now, let me tell you how important this is. After you develop that sort of brand, then you come down to the areas that they call policies. I'm sure we all hear policies day in, day out. Now, there are two kinds of policies in every country. There is the macro policies. Macro policies are the ones they call fiscal policy, monetary policies, and then supply policies. Those policies, when government set it up, they affect everything. An example of a fiscal, of a regulator, let me use a monetary policy, which we are all very familiar about, is the exchange rate. So anything that affects the exchange rates affects everybody, regardless of your sector, regardless of what you're doing. Exchange rate affects everybody, regardless of whether you're a rich man or you're a poor man. Exchange rate affects you. Now, the micro policies are the policies that the governments usually use, as it says, micro, so it's small. They use it to control each sector based on how they want the sector to grow. Now, the reason why a lot of people usually say Nigeria's policy are inconsistent is all of a sudden, that policy that you're saying every Nigerian go and queue, if you don't collect your NIN, we will cut off your lines. That policy will affect the telcos tremendously. Now, if you know the contribution of the telcos to the Nigerian economy, nobody anywhere should sit down and come up with that kind of policy. Now, again, if you look at Nigeria as a country, there's some things that are peculiar to us. We're 200 million people in this country. About 65% of that 200 million, that's 130 million people, are below the ages of 35. Any government, any reasonable government, the first thing you do is to come up with policies to support that particular indicator. So all of your macro policies, all of your micro policies, you're looking for ways to ensure that you can support that demography. What happens in Nigeria is that the government comes up with all these policies and behaves in ways that doesn't support the bulk of the population, which doesn't make any sense. So if you're asking a question, why isn't Nigeria growing? What's the problem? It's because they have set up policies, they haven't matched it to a vision, and they haven't matched the policy and the vision to the human beings in the country, the bulk of the human beings in the country, which is 65%. So if you connect those three levels, you will see that the reason why they always say we're the poverty capital of the world. Now, we are 200 million. Now, let me come up to the fourth level. So the first level is the vision. The second level is the policy. The third level is the demography. Now, the fourth level is the poverty levels that we are now straddled with as a country. Let me define it so a lot of the viewers understand. In Nigeria today, only about 4 million people can spend 140,000 naira per month and above. Only 4 million individuals can spend about 140,000 naira per month and above. Let that sink in. Now, that leaves us with about 196 million people. Of the 196 million people, 100 million people live below less than $1 per day. That's about 500 naira, less than 500 naira. So those people can only spend about 500 naira every day. If you multiply 500 naira by 30, you know what that figure gives you. That is what they can spend in a month. So all those guys we regard as poor. You see everybody selling, whatever it is you are selling, whatever, you are only selling to those 96 million people that earn between $2, as we like to say, and $9. Those people that are in the middle, those are the ones that everybody is struggling to sell to. The bad news is that every one of those people in the middle, they are further being dragged lower into the less than $1 per day. So Nigerians are getting poorer because the economy hasn't been set up to support growth. That is the fundamental problem that we have as a country. So we rely on oil. Anytime oil goes up or goes down, the whole country shakes. And it shouldn't be so. So again, we have set up a country where, let me use one thing that we are all used to, power. The total power that Nigeria produces today, the total economic power that we produce in this country is less than about 5,000 megawatts. The power, so if you're familiar with the UK, they have an airport called Terminal 5. It's their largest airport in the United Kingdom. The power that they use in that airport is more than the total power that we use and produce and fight with in the whole of Nigeria. Let me say it again. The total power that they produce and use in Terminal 5, which is an airport, is a one location. It's actually in London. Heathrow Airport, Terminal 5, is far bigger than what we use as a country. So that tells you that if that is going on as a country, you first know that to do anything, you need power. With power in that state, it tells you that the potential to do anything is almost zero, which is why a lot of us are disheartened with the constant stories around insecurity, because external investors that will ordinarily come and invest in Nigeria won't come here. They will not. And all of the policies that the government is currently setting up today only favors that 3.7 million people, about 4 million people I mentioned earlier on, that can spend about 140,000 naira per day and above. That is 1.8% of the population. So we have a government that has been set up to cater to just the needs of the very, very few Nigerians, which is why a lot of Nigerians, you begin to have ethnic issues. Today, I hear of yesterday, there's issues in Oyo State between the Yoruba community and the Seriki in Oyo State, saying Fulanis must leave. You begin to have all those issues because the government has refused to invest in infrastructure. You keep on seeing monies that should be used to do meaningful things being diverted, being stolen, being used for funny projects that, we don't even understand. So that begins to tell you that you're in an environment where the government that's supposed to create that enabling environment, they're not doing so. Hence the pressure that, everybody feels in Nigeria, because the environment doesn't enable you to almost do anything. So in spelling it out like that, I hope people have a better understanding of what's going on in Nigeria and the challenges that we're faced with as a nation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Wale. In case you just joined us, this is the Saturday's edition of the program Shagalinko TV, and I'm talking with my guest, Mr. Wale Ogundare, all the way from Lagos. We're looking at how can citizens begin to cushion the effect of bad economy from our own point of view. We're just laying that background so that everyone can be on the same page when Mr. Wale comes up with some of the solutions that he thinks we can. And if you have yours, you can also drop them and we'll read them. Anyway, let's quickly take some of them. This is from Mukhtar Usman. It says, "Good day. Thank you so much, Mukhtar." Victoria Umar also dropped hers long even before we started. It says, "Nice one, boss." Thank you, Victoria Umar. And Colinos, all the way from Kaduna, Isifanus says, "Good afternoon." And Alexandra Etim from Abuja says, "Lovely boss. Thank you." Mr. Wale, I will read one message here. In fact, two of them, and then you respond. This one is from Florence Okafor in Enugu State. She says, Good morning, Ambassador Gabari. Um, it's we Nigerians that are killing ourselves. Bribery and corruption is too much in Nigeria. Unless they stop it, Happy New Year and God bless you. That's from Florence. So just hold that. I'll take this other one. Sheung here is from Ibadan. He says, "I'm watching you live from Ibadan. My regards to your guests. What I'd like to contribute is that citizens should begin to find ways to help themselves. Of course, we've been doing that before. We pay generator fuel money. We pay
Correct.
what's this you wrote? He wrote something in abbreviation, TMG. I don't understand that, Sheung, but thank you very much. It says we pay all the things and then we take care of our security. We pay megats for security and all that. Anyway, Sheung, thank you so much. So, Mr. Wale, what do you have to say about Florence and Sheung there?
You know, a lot of the things that people tend to observe is the byproduct. Corruption is a byproduct of something. There's this philosophy they call cause and effect. Something is causing something, there's something effect is what you're seeing. So whenever I see corruption going, corruption is the effect. The cause is what we need to address. It is simple. We have set up a country without strong institutions. Let me give you an example. We're all aware of what Trump was doing a few weeks before he left. If the United States didn't have strong institutions, then you will have individuals whose will can begin to supersede that of the country. The fact that they have strong institutions is why they could say, no, the institutions and the founding fathers of this country have said, again, we live in the land of the brave, home of the free, or land of the free, home of the brave. That's where we live. Therefore, that will supersede any individual. And that's how it should work. A lot of Nigerians don't understand, and it's because of the way we've been ruled. It's as if we've been in slavery for so long. A lot of Nigerians don't understand the effects that institutions plays, the law courts, the National Assemblies, the House of Representatives, all of those arms that we tend to see, even the local governments, all of those arms have been, they've been suppressed for so long. So you find out that in most House of Assemblies, they are just a mouthpiece. Whatever the president wants is what they do in the House of Assembly. It shouldn't be so. The National Assembly should be a check and balance to what is happening at the executive, which is where you have the presidency. But a lot of Nigerians don't even understand it because they just see all of them as cut out from the same cloth, which is why you notice we'll typically say, oh, these politicians. We put all of them together in that same pocket of dishonesty. The moment we decide to say, look, we need to run Nigeria correctly, then we'll begin to see how institutions work. The executive will do what they need to do. The legislature will do what they need to do. The judiciary will do what they need to do. It is because all these institutions have been suppressed and subverted for so long that, you know, we're faced with all of this corruption and all of these things. And I always tell you, a lot of people always ask me, so who is the Messiah that will come and help us out? We don't need a Messiah. One day, God will raise one man, one woman, somebody, you know, surrounded by the right set of people. They will ascend through this country correctly. You know, until that is done, we'll continue to see all the things that we see now. For those who missed it, Nigeria is currently set up in a way to support only a very few individuals, which is why whenever you look at the news, when you see that one oil license, it will be given to one name that you've heard over and over and over again. They circulate it among very, very few friends, you know, and families and associates and whatever of theirs, until transparency begins to step into how we operate as a country. Then we'll begin to see. For a lot of those looking at the things happening at all of the NIMC offices, people, when you get there, you must pay 5,000 or pay 10,000 to ensure that you can quickly register. All those things are byproducts of the larger things that people see in the society. People tend to follow whoever is leading. For those of us who work, when you get to your office, you try and mold yourself after your boss. You know, if you see that your boss is a strong, upright person, it'll be very difficult for you to be doing anyhow, because, you know, if I do anyhow in this office, this man will fire me. Same thing with countries. You know, once a country sees that the president and, you know, the governor and all of those leading them, you know, they behave anyhow, everybody too takes laws into their own hands, which is why you'll find the same Nigerian that is very unruly in Nigeria here. The moment that same Nigerian enters UK,
steps abroad, they become law abiding.
Exactly, because there are institutions in those places that tend to control, you know, any wayward behavior. Those institutions in those countries work. The institutions here don't work. That is the problem. You know, so if you look at it all the way down, it has now cut across everywhere. Education, health, transport, all of our institutions, it has cut across, right across it, which is why, you know, there are no services that you will say, oh, the services in these institutions are exemplary services. You know, these services are second to none. You will see it like that. You know, we're endowed with so many locations. If you look across Nigeria, there are so many destinations that you can go to, you know, that are nice resort destinations. But you see, who wants to do road travel in Nigeria when you can be kidnapped and, you know, 5,000 naira or 5 million naira is what, and above, is what your kidnappers will ask for. You know, nobody will do that. So all of those destinations that are here, God-given destinations, they all lie fallow. A few, maybe sometime last year, the train between Abuja and Kano was set up. I can't count the number of times I've seen in the news that that train broke down in the middle of nowhere in the dead of the night. I can't count the number of times. So, and they only started the thing last year. So you must ask yourself, who went to buy those trains? Why are they breaking down? It's because there are no standards, you know, and there won't be standards because the kind of leadership we have in Nigeria doesn't want standards. You know, the leadership is all about who is loyal to me. Look, let me give you an example. Until we do away with, again, we have some policies that they call quota system. It's a micro policy, which says we want to use the quota system to ensure that every Nigerian is equal. But you see, that quota system is counterproductive, because if you use quota system, what you're saying is you're bringing somebody who isn't competent into a position that requires competence. That is a challenge. It's a challenge, you know. So until we begin to tell ourselves the truth, until we have the right leadership, you know, leadership is a lot. I always say a lot of the people who rule Nigeria, they're not prepared to rule. They're not. Leadership takes a lot of mind. It's a mindset. You know, I've been privileged in my life to work with some very, very top leaders, including some heads in some countries, you know, and I've seen the way that they are. There's a lot that goes into it. A lot of people get prepared for years to enter leadership position. In Nigeria, it is, you know, rough and tumble, just getting there. Once they get in there, because they are clueless on what to do, they just carry on from where the predecessor left it. You know, Nigeria is a classic case where they said, "Now so we did do am." Maybe just they do am like that, they go. Now so we did do am. That's what happens in Nigeria. Anybody gets there, don't come here and rock the boat. Just carry on with what you met and continue the nonsense that has been going on. And you see, that nonsense will only carry on for so long until it gets to a stage where it is no longer sustainable.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'd like for you to read some of these comments here, if you can see them on the screen. We got this one from Queen Acapella in Abuja. Could you read this for us, please, Wole?
Yes, let me read and respond. Thank you very much, Queen. She says, but Nigeria is so endowed and rich, yet it doesn't reflect in the lives of her citizens. They keep borrowing amidst the alarming budgets and funds are being approved and released. How do we decentralize power and let other regions exploit the natural resources of the people for the benefits of the people? Perhaps that might work. Yes, it's a good idea, but you see, the moment you say let other regions explore the natural resources of their people for the benefit of their people, it means you want to divide Nigeria. Nigeria is one entity. So the moment anybody says, look, let me use, for instance, let me use the oil in the south to develop the people of the south. What you're saying is you want to break the country down. It won't happen. You see, and I get where you're coming from. The challenge, so let me state some things. Nigeria can succeed as one entity. What just needs to happen is we need to create a brand Nigeria, which means a unifying factor, a unifying theme, a unifying, what would I call it now? A unifying statement, a unifying set of ways that says this is who we are as a nation. The moment we do that, regardless of wherever you're producing, regardless of whatever resource you have in your various regions, those things can be pulled together in the center and used to the benefit of the whole country. The problem here now, why people are agitating, let me develop my own people, you to go and develop your own people, is because those resources are being pulled and being used for the benefit of a few people. I said this earlier when we started. So I've said Nigeria, you know, again, if I break it down, there are 200 million people in this country. Only about 4 million people can spend 140,000 naira and above per month. Only about 4 million people, 4 million out of 200 million is a terrible statistic. About 100 million of Nigerians are poor. The rest is where everybody is trying to sell, and everybody is trying to sell to themselves in that middle, struggling. The problem is that those people struggling are also being pulled down into the lower than $1 per day, you know. So there's a huge challenge with how the resources are being used. And, you know, the central government will never allow one region to use their own resource to develop their own people. They won't allow it because we still operate as a sovereign country until we decide that, look, we need to operate, you know, as a country, or we say, look, we want to decentralize power. You know, when people sit down and say, look, let's decentralize power, and if this is agreeable, then a lot of those things can begin to come to bear. That's why you will see some regions will get very rich, some will get very poor, and stuff like that. But power isn't currently decentralized in Nigeria. I see Karim here. Somebody just said there that I used to live in Ikeja and Victoria Island, and yes, they've always needed a unified brand, a national Nigerian pride. Yes, until we get to a stage where we can say, this is our country, this is who we are. You see, everything stems from that, this is who we are. We define it. Is it that we're saying we are a country that wants to attract the rest of the world, or we're a country that wants to showcase the best of our youth, whatever it is we decide. And there's a process to that work. There's a process. The process is simple. That process will take whoever is appointed across all the 774 local government areas in this country. There's a method to the madness. Countries bigger than us have done it. So it's not as if, oh, wow, there were 200 million compared to Indonesia. Indonesia is about 300 and something million people. And they've done this same exercise in Indonesia. If you look at Indonesia today, and they did it, this is 2021, they did it about 5-6 years ago. So it's not as if it's something they've done very long ago. So if you look at Indonesia today, Indonesia is far better than what they used to be, and far better than a country than Nigeria. So the moment we say, look, we still want to operate the way we operate, that German, as we like to say, we'll continue to struggle. You know, it all starts with saying this is who we are. Then all of the current institutions that we have, whether you operate in aerospace, whether you operate in, you're selling pepper, whether you operate in health sector, anywhere you operate, you must buy into that brand. Everything you do must support that brand. If anything that anybody is doing in the country as a state, as an institution doesn't support the brand, then we say, look, that thing can't work. When it gets to the National Assembly, they will shoot it down. Or when it gets to the House of Rep, they'll shoot it down because it doesn't support the brand. That's when you begin to see the country will grow up as a unit. Let me give you a classic example. I know my brothers in Aba are doing fantastic work when it gets to leather works. I mean, the production base in Aba is stupendous. I've been there several times where, you know, if you're looking for tailors who can mass produce clothes, go to Aba. Mass production. There's no one else in Nigeria that does that. Why won't you connect those kinds of nerve centers to areas that need them using railways? Why not? You see, when you set up a national brand, that's what it helps you do. It helps you to connect all of the surplus units to the deficit units, such that people can get from point A to point B and connect and begin to generate economic sense very, very quickly. One of the problems, let me say this and then I'll pass it over to Ambassador. If you're bringing in a container, you know, a lot of what we do in Nigeria today, we import. If you're bringing in a container from China to Nigeria will cost you, say, an example, 10 naira. If you're moving that same container from Apapa where it lands to Aba, you will spend about 40 naira minimum. So the cost of bringing a container in from China is ×4 if you're moving that same container within Nigeria. How does that begin to even make sense? But you see, if there's a rail from that Apapa all the way to Aba, maybe you will spend 2 naira. That's how it should be. You bring it in from China for 10 naira, you move it in country for 2 naira. What you find immediately is that the cost of production drops. And that's until that kind of sense and economic approach and policies are set up, we'll continue to struggle as a nation. And I blame the federal government squarely for this. Squarely, nobody else. Over the last 61 or so odd years that Nigeria has been a federal republic, I blame every single person in government to date.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wole. So as we begin to wrap up, where we ask for ways that citizens can begin to cushion this effect, because as it is now, we're likely on our own. Oyo is our name, because day in, day out, even when we are hopeful, even when we are patriotic, we just wake up every morning to the realization of many more bad news to hear, many more bad stories, many more things why you need to start asking yourself, did you even was it a mistake for you to stay back when you had opportunities to I've been in forums where I talk with friends and they're like, if I had known this will be like this now, or the country will be like this now, when I had the opportunity to leave, I would have just left, because it's obvious even the patriotic citizens are beginning to regret some of their actions, because they just wake up every morning and it's always one depressing news or the other. In fact, that's why this topic is even linked to what we'll be looking at on Tuesday. We're looking at how deep is depression, you know. So when you're even trying to work hard, go to school, save money. Look at how we woke up the other day and government was saying they will be taking from fixed deposits and accounts of citizens to, push it. It's so depressing. Sometimes you just wake up and you're asking yourself, do these people sit down and even think about the psychology of the citizens they are governing? Anyway, I'll ask you to be wrapping up on what you think citizens can and do to cushion the effect. But let me read a few messages here. This one is from Matthew Ojogbane Kelvin. He says, as far as I'm concerned, the citizens are doing all they can. Yeah, I agree with you there. You read this one from Karim. Just to also let you know that Karim is one of our very regular viewer from Philippines in Asia. And so thank you, Karim, for joining us. It's good to know that you're watching us all the way from Asia. And Queen Acapella came back a second time and says, Wole Ogundare, well done. You are so on point. And Ambassador, kudos to your great works. Thank you, Queen. I think there's a continuation from Matthew's message. The first one is that, as far as I'm concerned, the citizens are doing all they can. I'm telling you, depression. I'm telling you, depression every day and everywhere. Yeah. So, Mr. Wale, as we wrap up, what can citizens do? Because it's like one step forward, two steps backwards. You plan your life, students plan how after 4 years they will go for NYSC, but also will not let them do that. You plan for your rent, but your landlord will wake up one morning and tell you the government has also increased XYZ, so they are doing this. You plan a certain amount of money for your children's school fees, and you're waking up one time and they are telling you, Oga, teachers have to be paid this XY. It's a cumbersome one. Fela said, one step forward, three steps backward. Mr. Wale, what should citizens begin to do to help themselves?
This question is like you're asking a common man what the common man needs to do to help themselves. I'm a Nigerian as well, and you see, I'm even at this age, I'm honestly looking at when can I relocate out of this country, and go and find another base somewhere, because the country doesn't favor anybody; it favors only a few. You see, those things that you call bad news, is good news to the few that it favors. So whilst a lot of us are hitting ourselves on the wall and saying, what kind of news is this? Why should we go and register for NIN? Somebody's benefiting from it. When you hear certain things going on in Nigeria, somebody else is benefiting from it. It's sad news to the majority, to a few, it's good news. So what should Nigerians start doing to benefit themselves? I think the comment by Matthew Kelvin says it all. He says the citizens are doing all they can. Look, today, currently, we all have this I better pass my neighbor generator, don't we? So we power our businesses. We contribute to fix our roads and our estates that we live in and stuff like that. We are there buying diesel to power big generators. We are there looking for ways to ensure that we provide our own water. We're digging boreholes all over the place. Nigerians are stretched as it is already, as a people. So we're doing the utmost that we can as a people to support and help ourselves and survive. What you will find is that in the long run, or in the short run, let me start from a short run. Everybody needs to start looking for ways to, as they taught us when we were small, cut your coat according to your size. It is the number one rule that we need to start practicing. And it's funny because I gave an interview in 2014 and I said these same things in 2014. That's close to 7 years ago. These same things I'm saying, that Nigerians need to start cutting their clothes according to their size. That's why you find out that I saw there was an ice cream brand that I saw on a napep, You know, the pictures were circulating. I mean, it's a high luxury ice cream brand. People saw it on the NAPEP and they're saying, these people, they are suffering. They are now selling using NAPEP. Yes, they are cutting their claws according to their size. You know, they were selling to the rich before. All of a sudden, the number of rich has reduced. So they need to sell to the middle class. So they carry NAPEP and start looking for people that will drink ice cream all over the place. They are chasing that middle segment. And that's what it is. Everybody must do that in Nigeria to survive. So regardless of whatever you're selling, if you think that you want to start addressing one big market that is not there, it's not there. It is those small things. That's why you find out that Peak, all those Peak people that are very smart, they started selling Peak in mini sachets. Very smart. Because the tin milk itself is expensive. So let's sell it in a sachet. These guys too that sell all sorts of alcohol, they're beginning to put it in sachet. If you can't buy the bottle, you can afford the sachet. All of this is down to how can I sell to the markets that can afford what I'm selling. All those brands that used to make things, I mean, morning wash, all these things that we use in the kitchen. I saw it in mini sachets. So all of those brands are getting wiser every day. I won't be surprised if I start seeing Coca-Cola in mini sachets very, very soon, because it is a survival tactic. Now, for the rest of us that sell all sorts of stuff, we need to start. That is the mindset that you must have. You know, how can I repackage what I'm selling if it's a product? If it's a service, how can I think up my service such that I can sell it in affordable portions that will still deliver some value to the end user? That's the trajectory I see for Nigeria. You know, a lot of us listen to me will come back and say, this guy said it that time. You know, you begin to see maybe things like toilet roll that they used to wrap up that is very thick. People will start saying the thing in thin lines. In fact, maybe people will forget toilet roll and say, look, let me use water to do my business, please. I'm not interested in any toilet roll. We're getting to that stage because if half of the whole country is poor, 100 million people, and the people in the middle who can spend between $2 and $9 per day, they are getting dragged down to that less than $1 per day. There's a major problem. And the government isn't coming up with macro and micro policies to say this is how I want to turn around the fortunes of a country. It's always policy somersault. Let me give a classic example again so people have an idea. Sometime a few years ago, the government said, look, we're slamming import duty on imported vehicles, 35%. A lot of international car manufacturers are very happy. About 8 of them came here, including our own Innocent. You know, they came to invest. Oh, Nigeria will be producing their own cars. Just end of last year, early this year, they said that 35%, no, it's too high. Now it's 5%. All of those people that have brought in investments to be manufacturing motor vehicles there, what are they going to do with the investments that they have brought into Nigeria? What? And what that single act does is a lot of people who want to invest across other sectors, they get scared. They don't come here anymore. You know, that is an employment opportunity that we've chased away. So, you know, every Nigerian must now cater to himself or herself. You know, and that lesson that our forefathers taught us, cut your coat according to your size, is extremely important. And that's what I'll advise a lot of Nigerians to start doing going forward. Regardless of whatever you're doing, look for a way in which you can do it in small bits and make sure that those small bits help you win at the end of the day. That would be my fundamental advice because it cuts across everybody regardless of what they're doing.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Wole. Please finally read this message from Matthew as we wrap up.
Oh, Matthew says, I'm in my 6th year in the university as a mechanical engineering student without spilling. Mr. Wole wants to relocate.
He's not going anywhere. We'll be here together. We'll hold him here. You can't leave us, not now. We that wanted to leave since we didn't leave. We die here.
We die here.
So what are your final words? What are your final words, Mr. Wole, as we wrap up?
Yeah, I just want to say people should keep their head up. There are countries that are far worse than we are. Hopefully, we don't get to that stage. And hopefully somebody leading somewhere is also listening to us and saying, look, how can we begin to take some of these things on board? My final comment is we need to create a brand Nigeria. I've said this so many times. I've written one very powerful article around it. How can we create that brand Nigeria? Because everything in terms of development can take a cue from creating that leading national identity, for us. That will be my final comment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wole, for that very incisive one. I'm sure we're going to bring him back, God willing, for a part two, because there's so many things I really need to ask him. And then we're also going to delve into um, investment, yeah. So we also will bring him back to talk more about investment. I really didn't have time to ask him about his organization and the things he does. So we'll bring him back to talk about investment and help entrepreneurs to also come, especially small and medium scale businesses, what nitty gritty things they need to hold in their fingertips in this period. So as citizens begin to cushion the effect, so too we shouldn't forget that citizens are also pockets of entrepreneurs, business owners, and all that, because not everyone is working in a 9 to 5 job and all that. So, Mr. Wole Ogundare, thank you so much for being there for us. And yes, to everyone who joined us, yes, to Mukhtar, to Victoria, to Cornelius, to Alexandra, to Queen Acapella, to our very regular own Mr. Karim Jackson, all the way from Asia, to Matthew and everyone. I know some of the messages are hanging, and there are some text messages I got here that I couldn't read. I'm so sorry. Time says we should go, but I promise we'll be bringing Mr. Wole once again when he finds time to join us. Maybe in February, we'll bring him again to talk nitty gritty about small scale businesses, since that is almost his field to groom and build startups and encourage people there. Okay, people, thank you so much. This is the size of the Saturday's edition. Like I said, we'll be looking at depression. How deep is depression, and why are people not embracing to talk about it in public? Why are people not reaching out to others, and why are people also not looking out for others? Because the truth is, they will say, if you are depressed, speak up. The truth is, some people might not have that courage to speak up. So the onus lies on us to also look around and see what is going differently with people we know. If you find someone who is bubbling, very lively before, and then due to the economic factor, is becoming a recluse, becoming a loner, becoming to himself, we need to also stretch a hand of friendship and make sure we reach out to such people and find out from them. Once in a while, you don't hear from someone, just put a call across and say hello. That might just go a long way to save the life of someone. Anyway, we'll be doing that on Tuesday, God willing, and I hope you'll be able to find time to join us. Once again, thanks to everyone who joined, and we hope you have a beautiful, beautiful weekend. And remember to stay out of trouble. And please, like Mr. Wole has said, try and encourage yourself. There's always light at the end of the tunnel, and it could be saddening sometimes, because we're all patriotic Nigerians. We really want the best for our country. I'm not sure there's anyone who wants Nigeria to go down per se, but it's just some of the policies we see, some of the body language of our leaders who really don't. Sometimes we ask ourselves if they really put themselves in our positions to see how we feel sometimes when they do some of these policies that are not people friendly. But like we say here on Shagalinko, we keep pushing, we keep discussing. If for nothing, posterity will always be there to say we spoke our minds, they didn't listen. So have a wonderful time, everyone, till I see you all again. Thanks so much for being there. God bless you all, and bye bye.